on the way out the door with the boos of a grateful country echoing in his ears, Joseph Robinette Biden decided to sign pardons for thousands and thousands of criminals and his family. We're still not sure which group of criminals was worse, but neither one is particularly popular with the people of the United States. Now the question is, did Joseph Robinette Biden actually pardon countless criminals and members of his family, or was it President Autopen? Because under Obama we had President Teleprompter, under Joe Biden we had President Autopen. And President Autopen was a hardworking guy. President Autopen was signing thousands and thousands of pardons. It was really hard work, the hardest work anybody in the Biden administration had ever done. The question is, who was giving orders to President Autopen? Because, and this is a minor technical point, the American people had not actually elected President Autopen to do anything. In fact, the Constitution specifically states, well, it does not specifically state, but had Autopens existed in the time of the Constitution, they probably would have mentioned that the President, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States, must be a human being and not an autopen. So the question, and this is something that Congress is holding hearings to get to the bottom of, and you know how effective and how thorough congressional hearings are. They leave absolutely no stone, no cable news appearance unturned, is trying to figure out who was actually giving the orders to President Autopen. Well, supposedly, Chief of Staff Jeff Zients, or President Zients, since he was actually the one giving the orders to the autopen, was the one who told the autopen what to do. Except that wasn't really the case, because the email from supposedly Chief of Staff Jeff Zients saying that the autopen had the approval to pardon a whole bunch of people exercising the use of a constitutional power actually came from Rosa, who was an aide to Chief of Staff Jeff Zients, who was the Chief of Staff to the President of the United States. So it turns out that President Rosa was actually giving the orders to pardon all those criminals. Who elected Rosa? Well, apparently we did, or apparently our votes didn't actually matter, because the people running the country are not the people who we actually voted for. So the good news is that the country was in great hands with President Rosa, who signed off on pardoning Joe Biden's family at a time when Biden's brain could not fully encompass the concept. And of course, we also know that this was the result of a meeting that involved the Chief of Staff, not the Chief of Staff to the President, but the Chief of Staff or the aide to Joe Biden. You know, I was just hoping that we had a community college PhD that was actually running the country, but no, we had the aide to the community college PhD that was actually running the country. Isn't democracy wonderful?